I have a bunch of extra notebooks that I haven't used yet, but there's a chance I'll use it in the future, so I might as well keep them around. Similarly, when the tf2 team was testing new weapons, even though they never made it to release, parts of the code for these weapons are still scattered about, so here are all the things I could find. First, scrapped engineer buildings. There are 3 unused engineer buildings, which could have been tested during the development of the gunslinger, as they are all essentially miniaturized and more aggressive versions of the default buildings, in line with the mini sentry. Unused building 1 is the mini dispenser, which is quite literally just a dispenser but smaller. It costs 70 metal to build, it has a max health of 100, it can't be upgraded, and it can only hold 200 metal. For comparison, the default dispenser costs 100 metal to build, has 150 HP, and 400 metal capacity. Otherwise, the mini dispenser is functionally identical to a level 1 dispenser. Heal rate of 10 and ammo replenishment rate of 0.2. Building 2 is the catapult, which replaces the teleporter. The name explains it all. You step on it and it flings you through the air. As it is in the code, the catapult uses the teleporter's model, and whoever walks over it gets air blasted forward in the direction they're looking at 1000 hammer units per second, with 60% of that also being applied as an upward force. The catapult has a 0.1 second cooldown between activations, and each activation flings everyone currently standing on it, in contrast to how the teleporter only works with 1 at a time. That is, however, only what an older version of the catapult would have done according to code that is now deactivated. The current iteration of the catapult as written in the code instead simply gives you a 5-second speed boost upon passing over it. It has 150 health, but it is unclear if you could build 1 or 2 catapults, and it doesn't appear to be upgradable. This neatly leads us to the 3rd unused engineer building, the speed pad. Apparently an evolution of the catapult, the speed pad would grant you a speed boost when you walk over it. While the 2nd version of the catapult gave you a 5-second speed boost, the speed pad gives you a conditional speed boost for 4 seconds. Conditional in that if you get hit or shoot your gun during the 4 seconds, the speed boost will end early. It costs 100 metal instead of the usual 200 to upgrade, and each upgrade increases the speed boost duration for another second. So a level 2 speed pad would grant 5 seconds of speed, and a level 3, 6 seconds. Once someone has been granted a speed boost, it deactivates and recharges for 1.6 seconds before another person can get a boost. If upgraded, a level 2 recharges for 1.3 seconds and only a second for level 3. The cost of the speed pad is unclear, since it is simply defined as 25 less relative to the standard cost of the teleporter. Depending on when this code was written, the intention could have been for it to cost either 100 or 25. And now unused weapons. First, the soldier's mortar launcher. It's a stock rocket launcher, except when you right click, all the rockets that are currently active get redirected to the point you were looking at when you right clicked. There is also a development console command called tf mortar allow full tracking that enables whether to, quote, allow full tracking / infinite redirects for mortar launcher. It seems likely to be a command for debugging purposes, but if infinite redirects were allowed, you could theoretically infinitely redirect the rockets in a circle, then slowly add more and more rockets to create a literal nuke. However, any of the weapon's possible attributes, such as clip size or explosion damage, is unknown. For the medic, this is what appears to be an older version of the Crusader's crossbow. Its primary fire is a normal crossbow shot. Nothing happens if you hit a friendly, and damage is dealt to an enemy, calculated in exactly the same way as today's Crusader's crossbow. But if you right-click, a special bolt is fired, and upon a successful hit, an effect is applied depending on whether you hit a friendly or enemy. Upon hitting an enemy with your bolt, Mad Milk is applied right before calculating how much damage should be applied, healing the medic. The Mad Milk also lingers and scales according to how much damage is done. If the bolt dealt 25 damage, the milk effect persists for 6 seconds, and 10 seconds for 75 damage. Damage is still calculated by scaling it up as distance increases. If you hit a friendly player, it briefly grants the target all 3 resistances simultaneously and heals them. The temporary resistances given are the same type of basic damage reduction that you get while being healed by the vaccinator, and they last for a maximum of 3 seconds and minimum of 1 second. However, firing the special bolt has a price. After firing it, a cooldown of unknown duration is put into effect, locking the weapon from firing with either left or right click. For a sniper, there are 2 scrapped concepts, one of which is a sniper rifle that would somehow allow you to see enemy outlines. Nothing else is known, and the existence of this weapon is only revealed through this comment in tf player, which is a massive file that takes care of the interactions that involve you as a player. The comment states that progress on the sniper rifle was halted because it conflicts with how the game handles drawing outlines, so they would need to resolve that issue before more work could be done. The comment was, quote, "This code was added for a new sniper rifle that was being looked at, but it breaks glows for existing players by always turning off the glow if the weapon doesn't think it needs to be on. This needs to be fixed before we can use it." Some mods use the glows, and the source TV clients see player glows when they're watching a match. The second scrapped sniper weapon is a revolver. Instead of bullets, it fires a projectile at 3000 hammer units per second, which is the same speed as the Sandman baseball in Cleaver, for example. If hip-fired, it does 40 damage. Zooming in without charging deals 50 damage, and a full charge would do 75 damage. At full charge, the next shot can also be fired faster at just 0.3 seconds later. This is comparable to the Force of Nature, that fires 50% faster than the Scattergun's 0.625 second attack interval time. Finally, the Spy has quite a few scrapped weapons. First, the DNA gun. It fires a projectile that travels at 2000 hammer units per second, comparable to the flare gun's flare of the same speed. Upon hitting an enemy, they are crippled to half speed for 1.5 seconds. Marked with a particle over their head until they die, and you are granted a 3-second 100% weapon deploy speed bonus. As long as your target is still being marked with your DNA gun, a successful backstab instantly switches you to their class. You are not disguising as them, like the Your Eternal Reward. You switch class on the spot to the target's class. If your target has any special reserves, such as Ubercharge, any buildup of rage, or heads collected, they are also given to you. After the switch is complete, teleporter sparks are attached to you for the same duration as normal teleporter sparks. Honestly, quite a cerebral approach to resolving the issue of Spy's balance once and for all. Just switch to another class. Next, the Dynamite Sapper. Our understanding of this weapon is incomplete, since we can only see how it functions. Any of its attributes, such as a health penalty or no random crits, are unknown. From the code, it's literally the default sapper, but at the end, it produces a 200 hammer unit sized explosion that deals 1.5 times the max health of the building it's sapping. For comparison, rockets have a 146 hammer unit explosion. Another unused spy weapon is the decoy. It's unclear which weapon slot it's meant to be in, but upon left-clicking, it spawns a copy of you in your current location, looking in the same direction that will keep walking forward. The decoys are essentially reskinned Halloween skeletons, so it collides into enemy players and walls as normal, but they can't be knocked back by explosions or air blasts in any way. Decoys last for 5 seconds, and they can be summoned every 5 seconds. Interestingly, within the code that defines how decoys should act, the code is dated January 2011, which would be 4 months before the Hatless update and a month after Australian Christmas. The fourth spy weapon is some sort of tool that allows you to build traps, as evidenced by code written in tf2's menu spy build, which specifies how the spy's build menu should work. 4 traps were being tested. These were called the Spy Trap, Pulse Magnet, Reprogrammer, and Repulsor, all of which used the teleporter model for prototyping. The Spy Trap, when placed, grants any teammate who comes into contact with it 2 seconds of cloak. 10 seconds after the trap is created, it self-destructs. The pulse magnet attempts to pull enemy players within a 700 hammer unit radius into its center every 0.2 seconds. Those under its effects will also experience 0.85 seconds of half speed. It self-destructs after 5 seconds. The reprogrammer trap was clearly meant for MVM. When placed, it lasts for 20 seconds, and any bots that touch it get switched to the opposite team. It also checks if the bot is considered a boss, and if it is, the effect doesn't get applied. The trap has no effect on human players. Given that this trap is expressly for MVM, it's possible that the other spy traps were as well. It is unknown what the repulsor does, as the only reference to it is found within the HUD building menu code. The exact means to build a trap is also unclear, and nowhere in the code are any mentions of the cost. Finally, the last spy weapon is Phase Cloaking Watch. This was some sort of invisibility watch that allowed you to walk through enemies when cloaked, and if you uncloak while inside someone, they would get instantly killed. However, this is the only bit of information available. It is unknown how long the cloak lasts, and to what degree the player has control over cloaking and uncloaking. And that's every unused weapon that could be found in the code leak.
My life as a software developer, incredibly hard. And I've never written a single line of code ever, right? It's not like I was like saying,